What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me, but I just got home off of an early morning flight, right? First thing through the door, I want to see my family. I love my family. You know, I'm a family man. I'm an advocate for families, right? Second thing, I got to get that hot shower because I got to throw the threads on. The threads make me feel like $1,000,000, but the third thing through my mind and all throughout the trip is that I gotta have that Tej pack. Tej makes my life uncomplicated. It's uncomplicated skincare for men. The first way that I started specifically was their level 1 system. It's a daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin. 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of the dead skin cells. An AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun, and a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. Here's the thing. My favorite part about Tej Henley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. They really making the process of achieving and maintaining amazing skin for men uncomplicated. In addition to amazing skin, members of Tej Henley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, the ability to customize your box, exclusive monthly deals, you can pause and cancel at any time, and you get free shipping. And because Tej Henley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers an amazing deal, right? Just click the first link in the description and you get 30% off your first box, plus a free gift. It's an amazing deal. You got to get started today. You're not out here trying to look like a dusty. And if you travel as much as I do, which I'm sure most people don't, but you know me, I'm pushing my bag chasers in order to be in the top 5%, top 10%, top 1%. We got to make our lives uncomplicated, and Tej Henley is no better product. You got to look good. You got to smell good. And you can't be looking like a dusty. Make sure you get started today. Click the link in the description. Get that Tej pack. Feel the Tej, my friends. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Millionaire Morning Show. I am your host, Anton Daniels. What up, friends and family? In the building, it is Monday, August 21st, 2023, year of our Lord. And we are going to be running the checkup all the rest of the year. I am excited to be back here in Detroit. I hope you guys had an awesome week, an awesome weekend. I had a phenomenal trip over into Tokyo, Japan, and we back in the studio. So what up, though? What up? I have you guys to know that I actually grew a full head of hair. When I was over in Tokyo, I grew a full head of hair, almost to the point to where I said, you know what? I might have to go ahead and rock out with the hair again. Shout out to Classy Beats. I'm going to read these super chats shortly. You know how we do. Let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way. Let me make sure that I tap into the Patreon with the bag chasers. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. I'm so out of order. I'm not even used to hotkey and stuff anymore. I had to get used to my setup. I'm so used to rocking out and doing things on the road nowadays. But we here. Make sure you get that Tej pack, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. You see how clean I am. As soon as I step back into the United States of America, I had my barber come over, take care of me, make sure that my beard was straight, get me back to where it is that I needed to be. Yeah, man. It's dope. Everything is great. I had to get my barber back in the building. I said, get my beard right. Make sure I'm a dolphin out here, that I can get some really, really good swim lessons, that I can get through the water really quickly. Yeah, we in the building, y'all. What up? Hey, again, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. I'm going to drop a new interview for y'all tomorrow. How about that? How about I drop a new interview for y'all tomorrow, and then we can get cooking up, and we're going to start the week off right. It's already uploaded. It's already set to go. I was going to drop it like 4 days from now, but I'm going to drop it 2 days from now. Messy, listen, my gray got to be gone. I'm not ready to go with the silver fox thing, to go with the salt and pepper and all of that. I gotta go with the way that we've been doing it. You know what I'm saying? Again, make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also, make sure you get your Teach pack. Ladies, if you have not bought your Teach for your men because you know they're not gonna do what they're supposed to do, that is your job. That is your job. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat for you to tap into the Patreon, and then the link to the Teach pack is in the description. Hey, tell me how y'all feeling this morning. Man, I'm telling you. I woke up feeling incredible. I'd like to know how everybody is feeling this morning. Give me a one word to help me to understand exactly. DK, they say gray is a sign of wisdom. That's bullshit. I know that that's a lie. Listen, whoever told y'all that having gray in your hair or in your beard is a sign of wisdom is a lie. I know some dumb dummies that have a ton of gray inside of their beard and their hair. I know a dude whose chest hair is coming up out of his shirt. He got a full chest hair gray and he dumb as hell. I see y'all in the chat. You saying amazing, committed, godly, relaxed, tired, spectacular, sensational, great, well, good, decent, excited, and nervous. You should be. That's always a good thing. Anxious. Today is the first day of my daughter's high school. Surviving, fantabulous, engaged, refreshed, loved, grinding, stressful, blessed, magnificent. Shout out to Step Reads. I appreciate you for tapping in. Motivated. All right. Confident. Tired, about to do 13 hours. So don't get tired now. We just getting started. Ambitious, focused, bankrupt. Oh, Jesus. Hopefully you just addressing the name of the show today. Alive. That's always a good thing. Feeling phenomenal. Awesome. Risky. I don't know what that means. You might be getting a little frisky on top of it. Overworked. Never. Perfect. Paid. Fantastic. Yeah. Energized. Hella motivated. All right. I like what it is that I'm hearing. Thankful. Hopeful. Powerful. Established. Hopefully nobody is filing for bankruptcy. You said you feeling like taking a risk? Oh, Jesus. You living up to your name, messy mathematician. All right, so listen. This is what we going to do. We going to rock out. The first thing that I want y'all to do is I want y'all to hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. The second thing that I want y'all to do is I want you to look in the mirror or turn on your camera on your phone, and I want you to acknowledge who it is that you are in a positive way. I want you to acknowledge who you are in a positive way. One of my life lessons, or the way in which I live my life, is the people that surround me. And the reason why I have such good relationships and a great network and all of that other type of stuff, right, is because I tend to spend the majority of my time focusing on the thing that's best for everybody else, right? Like, the thing that I like most about you, shout out to Jamal Parks, I'm going to read that super chat shortly. The thing that I like most about you is the thing that I'm going to spend the majority of my time focusing on. So if it's something that I don't care about you, then that's something that we're going to spend 5, 3, 2% of our time on. We could solve for that. But the thing that I love about you is the thing that I'm going to spend the majority of my time about you. So I want you to make sure that you acknowledge yourself, and you need to tell yourself you love you just as much as I tell you I love you. I could sit here and I can help you to understand, hey, listen, I love you. I think you're great. You know what I'm saying? You're not in this by yourself. I want you to be motivated. However, it's also important that you love yourself too. A lot of y'all going into relationships and you're trauma bonding. You're going into a situationship looking for somebody to complete you. You believe that going into something is 50-50. I'm telling you that you need to have love for yourself. Now, that don't mean live with a vision of insecurity or being overconfident or being arrogant or anything like that. What it means is that you need to take care of you before you get into a situation with somebody else, because they can't fix you. If you're going into a situation broken, looking for somebody to fix you, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking to go into a job and thinking that the money that they're going to pay you is going to fix your situation, you're going to be disappointed. You have to fix you first. You have to love you first. You have to be selfish before you can be selfless. All right? Let's get into the show. Again, make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. I'm going to be reading super chats throughout the show. First and foremost, let me give an acknowledgement to Mike That Dude for hitting me off on Cash App. Also, let me give a shout out to my dog Classy Beats. Says, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Well, shout out to Class E Beats. I appreciate you, big dog, for holding me down and taking care of me, big dog. I appreciate that. Jamal Parks says, morning bag chasers. Anton, just saw your recent video breaking down net worth. I got to give you props. You know how to keep a brother motivated. Doing this work for my family, we all got 24 hours. Shout out to Jamal Parks in the building. I appreciate you for rocking out with me, and thank you for looking out for me. Again, I'm going to be reading super chats throughout the show. I don't ask for them, but I'm absolutely going to acknowledge everybody that contributes over to the platform. We got a lot to cover. We got to cover Fresh and Fit. We got to cover Evergrande. A lot of people are not familiar with it, but it's a Chinese company, and it's absolutely going to affect what it is that we're doing here in the United States. Also, I want to address a recent report that talked about the majority of people living paycheck to paycheck. You know, I don't believe in that. And I want to address Camron and Mase's alleged $30 million deal. And I got some thoughts on that. But before we get into it, I definitely want to talk about what my mindset is coming back into the United States. And the way in which I'm going to do this, shout out to Edmund. I'm definitely going to be reading that super chat shortly. I don't miss Tokyo. I don't miss Tokyo, right? He said, are you missing Tokyo yet? Nope, I don't. And the reason why I don't miss Tokyo is because I'm 100% immersed in what it is that I have going on at all times. When I was in Tokyo, I loved it. I lived it. I enjoyed it. I absolutely celebrated it. And when I'm here in Michigan and Detroit, I absolutely love it. I celebrate it and I embrace this. In every situation that I'm in, I'm 100% immersed in it, right? It doesn't matter of a relationship. It don't matter if it's this show. While I'm doing this show, I'm not thinking anything about what's going on in corporate America. While I'm doing this, I'm not thinking about anything that's going on in corporate America. While I'm doing corporate America, I'm not thinking about anything that's going on with the show. When I'm in a coaching call with you guys, I'm 100% in the moment. In the moment. When I get back to Tokyo, I'm going to get to Tokyo. I even tell my daughter on a regular basis, I say, hey, don't live it twice. Never live it twice. A lot of y'all be worrying about what's going to happen. Most of the time, don't even nothing happen, but you done already worried your socks off, then took 2 years off your life with worry and stress and shit. Immerse yourself in whatever it is that you in right there and then live it all the way up into the moment. But what I learned in Tokyo was it was on display as a result of when I landed at the airport here in Metro Detroit. Now, Metro Detroit Airport, DTW, is a phenomenal airport. It's an awesome airport. It's one of the, especially the McNamara Terminal, is one of the best airports that I've ever been in. It is a great airport. But then I go outside, right? And I'm about to jump in the car, and I seen a guy pull over in a pickup truck, white guy, and he had on some colorful pants. Truck looked relatively new. And so, you know, he was well put together. And the first thing that he did was he jumped out of the truck. He threw a cigarette on the ground. He stomped on it. And then he went about his business in order to get the luggage from the person that he was picking up. Let me say it one more time. It may not be a big deal to you because this is your cultural norm, but we talking about me coming over from an environment in which they don't believe in that. They don't believe in that. He got out of his truck. He threw his cigarette on the ground. He stomped on it, and then he kept moving. And I'm looking at him, and he looking at me, and he can't understand why I'm looking at him, but he looking at me trying to understand why I'm looking at him. And the reason that is because they don't even have trash cans out in the open on the street in Tokyo, Japan. They don't have trash cans. People had a sense of pride. Beyond the cultural differences when it comes to the women, beyond the opportunities that came along with all of the different conversations and the people, beyond the visiting of the Buddhist temples and going shopping and the cost of living and things being cheaper and all of that other type of stuff, here's the biggest thing that I learned from Tokyo, Japan. And I got videos that's coming out later on today and tomorrow about my summary of it and all of that. Beyond the Delta One flights and all of the stunting and the money and everything like that, what I've noticed, the biggest differences between here and there is that there's no sense of pride here. There's no sense of pride. People don't care. They expect everybody to do it for them. Nobody takes any ownership and responsibility of their own situations. Everybody feels a certain type of way, but don't nobody actually want to do anything, any self-work. Whenever it is that they have a problem, they look out the window and they point the finger instead of looking in the mirror and pointing the finger and holding themselves accountable. We don't push each other. We don't care about each other. The biggest thing that we celebrate is when we can tear somebody else down. Nobody has any kind of sense of pride in their own neighborhood. Everybody is looking for a confrontation. Everybody want to fight. When somebody then does something for you that is positive, everybody looks at it with a side eye and try to understand what the ulterior motive is instead of just saying, yo, that's a nice gesture. We think that doing something nice for a person is something that is an anomaly, and so we celebrate it as though it's a big deal, when in reality, that's the cultural norm over in Tokyo, Japan. We don't have no work ethic. We think that work-life balance is that the job is supposed to pay us and we not supposed to work at all. We trying to do a shortcut for everything that we do. Good is bad and bad is good. Everything is backwards. I didn't see one flag over there that was hanging up. I don't even think I remember seeing a fucking gas station. Nobody cared, but everybody cared at the same time, meaning that nobody actually cared about the thing that was negative about you, but everybody cared about building you up and having a great conversation regardless of whatever it is that you came from. You know the wildest thing that I seen over there in Japan, and it shouldn't even be something that blew my mind? I seen my first black woman over there, right? And then I wound up seeing two more later. I only seen 3 black women. But that's not the wild part about it, right? Because most people are not willing to take a 13-hour flight all the way over into the other side of the world. The interesting thing about it was that all of them operated the exact same way that I was experiencing Japanese women. Feminine, fit, friendly, awesome, great disposition, helpful, courteous, nice looking, well put together. Which basically told me, and I know it's a small sample size of just 3 women that we're talking about, but what it told me was that it's not based off of race. It's not based off of what you look like. It's not based off of the melanin in your skin. It's not based off of where it is that you live. It's not based off of if you were born in a hood or an urban community or whether or not you were born in the suburbs. It's your cultural norms. It's the thing that you celebrate the most. It's the way in which you program yourself. That's going to be the determining factor for whether or not your streets is dirty. It's not going to be whether or not the government or a politician can come in and clean it up. It's going to be based off of you take your own pride in what it is that you do. If I can see people adapt to the environment that they're in and do it in a positive way, you can't tell me that the things that we celebrate the most here are not trash. You can't tell me that the thing that we celebrate the most here is not trash. It didn't matter because you got to understand, it wasn't just Japanese people there. It was Italian people there. It was Arabic people there. It was people from Nepal that we met that was there. It was black people there. Every black guy that I met, because there was more black men, right, that were there. And you know what they were doing? Well put together, walking the streets, taking care of business, being able to speak more than one language because apparently they had been there for an extended period of time. Respectful. Even the young black men was respectful. The young black women was well put together the same way that the Japanese women was put together. So it's their cultural norm. It's not the fact that you black. They don't separate themselves and treat you differently because of your skin color. And this is why I need you guys to travel. I need you guys to get out of your bubble, start to experience other cultures, stop running in the victim Olympics, start understanding what it is that you can take from another culture that's positive and then implement it in your life. Stop aligning with people outside of anything other than the character of who it is that they are and start aligning with people based off of the good things that you see. The things that we embrace here is trash, y'all. I'm telling you. It's trash. It's absolute garbage. We don't have no pride, and we used to have a sense of pride. Yo, I loved looking at early footage of the 50s because that's when black people used to actually dress up to go to a baseball game. Do you know that we used to dress up to go to a baseball game? Every single time that we went out, we went to the restaurant. It wasn't that I was infatuated with the times in which they lived in. I was infatuated with the way in which people had a sense of pride and carried themselves, and that's why I'm so infatuated with certain eras. Even the gangsters wore suits. We used to dress up to go to a baseball game. We used to take our family to places. We used to eat dinner together. Now look at us. Overindulged in the wrong things, over-sexualized, not addressing the things that's negative about us in order to continue to validate bad behavior. Can't nobody say nothing to nobody. Everybody can use whatever bathroom that they want to use. It's a free-for-all. A free-for-all. Nobody has any sense of pride, dignity. When I talk about hygiene, you know, they sit here and they call me gay because I know how to wipe my ass properly, because I know how to properly use a fucking wet wipe so that I don't have streaks in my drawers. Yo, we attack the things that's so bad about us. Yo, I'm about to go and get my nails clean so that when I'm having sexual relations with my wife, I don't have dirt everywhere, and I make sure that I clean my hands when I come in. Oh man, that's gay. What the fuck you talking about? Yo, I heard a live stream. I be watching everything. People be sending me stuff all the time. And so I tap into the live stream, and they trying to understand whether or not they think I'm gay. What? Nigga, what? Really? Seriously? I've been married since I was 22 years old. I ain't never, ever had a man that ever touched me in my life. But I'm gay because I know how to take care of myself. Because I like to be trim. My beard is trim. My head is shaved. Because I don't like a whole bunch of hair on my body because it holds odor and dirt. And I make sure that I clean my beard and stuff. Yo, we attack the dumbest stuff. The dumbest stuff, bro. And of course, I didn't say anything. I just observed at it and I laughed at it. Because I like to smell good. Because I like to have my teeth brushed. Because my teeth are taken care of. This is insane. Our cultural norms is insane. Insane. I've been married for 20 years. And you know what else I found? It's not the dudes that's well taken care of that you got to worry about. It's the dudes that pretend like they thugs that you really got to worry about, because those are the ones that's really on the down low. It's not the ones that's well taken care of that you got to worry about. It's not the people that openly like to dress well, that like to brush their teeth, that take at least 2 showers a day, that like to keep their nails clipped, whose hands ain't ashy all day. It's the dudes that got the twists, the dreads, they overly thug, they make sure they sag every time that they can, get in front of you. Those are the ones that you got to worry about. It's the ones that overcompensate in order to try to make you think that they more thug than they are, instead of the ones that's just comfortably living and like to be clean all day. It be the dustiest people that's actually out there doing what it is that they do. I'm just being real with you, bro. I'm just being real with you. It's not the ones that's just chilling and comfortable. It's always the ones that push the envelope because they trying to overcompensate and trying to sell you on a narrative of what's not true. I'm just telling you the real. Some of your favorite rappers, the thugginest dudes, The ones that's on your camera the most, sus. Sus. I'm telling you, the thugginest dudes that you see, that you celebrate the most, are the most sus dudes that I've ever seen in my entire life, bro. Real talk. And of course, it's not everybody that got dreads. I'm using that as an example of certain people that overcompensate in order to try to sell you a narrative. It is what it is. But let's continue on with the show. I'm going to read a couple super chats and then we're going to get really cooking up. Shout out to Lucid Experience, says that Clubhouse discussion you was in on Sunday was painful to listen to. They was cutting you off like crazy. I see why you think the way that you do. Yeah, some people see, I be dipping around. I'll be paying attention to what's going on in the streets. I'll pay attention to what's going on in the streets. Shout out to the Lucid Experience. I appreciate you, big dog. Cliff Williams is in the building, says it takes one to know one, bro. The accuser is in denial. Facts. Shout out to my dog, Cliff Williams. D. Reed says, it kills me that our people think taking pride in your appearance is gay or acting white. But you don't do it for the 99. You do it for the one. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you also. Yo, we got over 1,700 people in here. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm and get started with the show. We going up. So which one y'all want to start with first? Y'all want to start with Camron and Mase, or y'all want to start with Fresh and Fit? Let's start with Camron and Mase. We'll go into Fresh and Fit right after that. We're not going to be long with Camron and Mase. I'm inspired. I'm genuinely inspired, right? And the reason that I'm inspired is because I think that Camron and Mase, and I'm going to shoot some bill to the rappers right now. I think that Camron and Mase, and to another extent, Gilbert Arenas, exemplified greatness over this past weekend. Camron and Mase, along with Gilbert Arenas, exemplified greatness over the past few days, over the past few weeks. And let me tell you why, right? And I want to play this in the background while I'm talking, because this is actually inspirational for me. Let's do this. It's alleged that Camron and Mase signed a $30 million deal, multi-million-dollar deal, over this past weekend because for their It Is What It Is show. But that's not the inspirational part, y'all. Y'all got to hear me out. The inspirational part about this live stream, before we get over into the Fresh and Fit conversation, is that they threw each other the alley-oop in order to do it. So I'm following Gilbert Arenas, right? And Gilbert wind up giving Mase and Cam some advice that wind up helping them seal the deal and sign the paperwork for It Is What It Is as far as what their deal is. Now, I've also been studying this and I've been watching it, paying attention. Cam was originally, look, listen, y'all, this is dope. This is what's dope about the culture. It's not necessarily just because they rappers. It's some of the things that they've done and said that also is inspirational, right? So Cam had said that he had $250,000, right? And he was going to go and buy a car. It's not just about the 30 million. It's the context behind how it came into fruition that's inspirational. He said he had $250,000 that he was going to set aside and he was about to go and buy a car. He said, you know what? Instead, I'm going to go and invest in a podcast. I'm going to start my own show. I'm going to take a risk. Now, the thing that people don't understand is that taking a risk from a business perspective does not guarantee results. You got to put the work in. You got to understand the business. You got to have an exit strategy. You got to know what you're doing. You got to get the right people around you, so on and so forth, right? And it's dope that he invested in himself. He said he called his homie, who he used to beef with. They patched it up. Him and Mase patched it up. Used to be friends, played basketball in high school together, beefed out at one point, whatever, so on and so forth. They came back together. He called Mase. He said, hey, fam, I want you to do this show with me. Mase said, I want to be a partner. Why don't we be partners? He said, what, you done already invested in it? Mase came through with the good energy and didn't say, hey, I think you owe me something, or how much are you doing this for, or how much you making from it. Mase said, hey, fam, I know you ain't making no money on that thing yet, but I want to be a partner in what it is that you got going on. Cam said, well, I already invested $250 in it. Mase said, I got a spare $250 I can throw in. We can take your $250. I'm going to take my $250. We can put $500,000 in there and we're going to do this thing, right? Inspirational. He didn't come in feeling like he owed him because they was homeboys back in the day, just because they patched it up. Cam first set the precedent by saying, I'm not even about to buy a car. I'm about to go and invest in this podcast. Mase said, let me throw in just as much as you got in there because I want to have a vested interest in it, and I want to be just as invested in seeing this thing be successful. They came in, they put together a great product. They disrupted the industry. They did some phenomenal stuff that ESPN and them ain't doing. They partnered. They leveraged their greatness, and they created a phenomenal show. You can't say whether you like they rapping skills or not. There's nothing that you can say about whether or not their ability to be able to be entertaining on the screen. They got a unique chemistry. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. They both threw the money in and got it. Then they start partnering with different people. They didn't have beef with other people. I seen Joe Budden throwing shots over at Camron and Mase because Joe wanted to be the only fish in the pond. Joe had Nori on, and they say, yo, don't it feel good to see other people fail that thought that they was good at this thing, that thought that they could just come in? Joe didn't give the assist. Joe wasn't trying to give no advice. Joe wasn't trying to help. This is just real. And it doesn't mean that Joe isn't great at what he does, because Joe Budden is phenomenal at what he does also. But Joe and them was laughing at other people that was trying to break into the industry that they was already in. That's the toxic aspect of it. But Gilbert Arenas gave him the alley-oop. He posted it over this past weekend. One of the reasons they was able to get the insight in order to really be able to seal the deal as far as this alleged $30 million deal that they did for It Is What It Is. Good energy. Good energy. Right? Good energy versus bad energy. Let's just call a spade a spade. Good energy versus bad energy. Now, they got a bag. They putting on a phenomenal show, got it quicker than Joe and them got it, and now they salty about it. Good energy. Phenomenal energy. People worked together in order to build each other up because your success is my success, and just because you successful, that don't mean that I can't be successful. Just because you successful don't mean that I can't be successful. And so they over there and they signed that. They put their money together. They invested in it. They worked their butts off. They then built the right relationships. They had Stephen A. Smith. They put the industry on notice. Next thing you know, they allegedly signing a $30 million deal. If that's not inspirational, if that's not something that we should be leaning on as a culture, and when I say as a culture, I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about this should be our norm. Just because you were in a space, just because they beefed at one time, don't mean that they can't patch that junk up and then go right and get things together once they learn and they become more mature. We're not supposed to be beefing all this time. You know what's so funny? Yuckmouth did a reaction to me. Yuckmouth from the Loonies. And y'all know I came back and I said some stuff about him. And I'm like, yo, I don't, whatever, so on and so forth, right? Yuckmouth from the Loonies, he did a live stream about me, right? I came back and I said, yo, I ain't really rocking with what it is that he talking about. I had reached out to him on Instagram. He didn't respond, so then I started talking my stuff. So then he was about to come back and he was going to do another live stream about me, right? People tagged me in it over the weekend. It was in the middle of the night, y'all time, but it was in the daytime, my time. I tapped in with him. He said, Anton, come and pull up. We had a conversation. We talked about the things we agreed with and disagreed with. And at the end of it, he was like, you know what? We cool, bro. We should link up. We should do some stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, you know what? We rocking out. We've been texting over the weekend, connecting, trying to figure out where it is that we can build together. Man, I don't want no beef with nobody. I don't want no problems with nobody. I'm going through a transition in my life where I'm 100% focused on how it is that I can grind, how it is that I can evolve, how it is that I can be a better version of myself. What is it that I need to do in order to get away from the way that I used to be in order to be be in a better space, whatever, so on and so forth, right? I don't want no beef with nobody. We 40 and 41, 42, 43, 44 years old. Listen, man, if y'all above the age of 25, figure out how to get some money together. If you're above the age of 25, it's okay for y'all to disagree. It's okay for y'all to react to each other. It's okay for y'all to hold each other accountable. But don't beef and figure out how to get some money together. Figure out how to get some money together. If this ain't inspirational, if we can't use this as an example of dudes that has evolved past their current circumstances in order to patch things up, invest with each other, and then figure out how to help each other get a bag because we better together than we are apart, I don't know what it is that we need to do. Everything ain't beef for me. I'm on a whole nother wave. When I go into somebody's live stream or I tap into them, I give them some advice and I say, hey fam, let me tell you how it is that you need to be able to level up, or this is what I've learned in my journey that I see you going into. You don't want to do it that way. You want to do it this way. Then people look at me and they say, well, what's this ulterior motive? What you mean my ulterior motive? I'm already up. I'm trying to figure out how I can help you. And then if you get to a certain level, then maybe we can connect together so that we can both bust down a bag together. We better together than we are apart. Why are we over here beefing? Why are we over here having problems? Why do we always want to? Now, I understand if you just genuinely don't like somebody, that's a different conversation. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I still don't want to take no money out of nobody's mouth. No matter how much I don't necessarily care for you, I do not want you to not be successful. I do want you to be able to get a bag. At the very least, have rules of engagement. Hey, okay, well, we just gonna react to the content that you put out there. We're not necessarily gonna go back and forth with each other personally. How can we figure it out? How can we squash it? If it ain't outside of the content and reacting to it, because you can have a negative reaction to something that somebody put out from a content perspective, but that don't mean that you gotta hate them. That don't mean that you got to want bad for them. That don't mean that you got to want them to not get no money. You not being able to feed your family don't put you in a better space. I don't want you to crash out. Yo. Listen, I'm sorry. I want $30 million. Can I get a $30 million deal? I mean, at the very least, let's say you don't agree with me. Let's say you absolutely hate me. You don't necessarily like my takes, that you think that I'm against women and I'm against men, and you don't necessarily care about the fact that I'm not a blackity black. Okay, cool. Can we at least get money together? Can we set it? People every day, you go to work every day and you work for somebody that has a completely different perspective than what you have, and you don't know anything about it, and y'all set y'all differences aside because he's your manager and you are the developer. Or he needs to feed his family and you need to feed your family, and y'all together, because he needs you in order to get promoted and you need him in order to get promoted, y'all together have to be able to get this bag together. And without y'all working together, you can't solve for or do your job effectively. At the very least, can you at least put aside your differences in order to bust down a bag? Can it be strategic? I'm going to read that super chat shortly. Thank you. Can it at least be strategic enough to where we can actually get a bag together? Or are you that difficult? Or are you that angry? Or do you hate a person that bad to where you would shoot yourself? Somebody said Underdog Fantasy is the one that got to deal with him. Would you shoot yourself in order to make sure that they don't get nothing? I don't hate nobody enough not to be able to get that bag. We got over 2,100 people in here. I'm going to need y'all to hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Going up to 2,200 people in here. Look, my goal, I'm evolving. From now on, if you notice, I've limited my amount of cussing that I have inside of this live stream. I think I should be able to communicate my point effectively without cussing. I'm going to just continue to evolve. I'm going to just grow. If you rolling with me, if you're trying to get a bag with me, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I want 30 million. There's no reason. I put on a better show, in my opinion, and in the opinion of you guys, because on a regular basis, we do numbers every single weekday. I put on a better morning show than anybody out there. I don't think that there's a better morning show, whether you're talking about regular national TV or you're talking about the internet. There's no national show that is better than mine. I don't believe it, not even a little bit. I want $30 million. I'm coming to get my 30 M's. I want to offer on the table within the next year and a half. I don't even think it should be that long. I want 30 million. Whatever I got to do. I got to change the show format. I got to stop cussing. Whatever it is, I'll do that for 30 M's. I'll do it for 30 M's. Give me $30 million. We going to make this morning show go national. Yo, partners, TBS, ABC, NBC. It ain't nobody that can do what I do. Let me give y'all my pitch. Let me give you my pitch. ABC, Disney, all of that. Listen, Disney, I think that you guys are a phenomenal company. You're just doing things a little bit differently. I can fix it. We got a lot of people in here. I got a live show that's phenomenal. I'm going to cut costs. We don't need to do the same production, right? We don't need to put as much money into the production and producing. I can do that on my own. I got my own team. I got my own cameras. I have a phenomenal platform in which I'm putting together. We can plan it out. We can do the deal. There's nobody that's more entertaining that can bring it to the people that actually can relate to the listeners, right? It's a lot of y'all that's polished. It's a lot of y'all that think that y'all know it's going in a completely different wave. I am the person that can take your platform to the next level. Send me that bag. We need 8 figures. 8 figures, and then we can renegotiate based off of the value that I add, that you see the numbers that I'm going to put up, and then we can go from there. I want my 30 M's. Laura said you don't have because you don't ask. I would like $30 million. I want my $30 million, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to get it. I'm telling you, I'm going to get my 30 million. I'm going to get my 30 million. Shout out to Cam. Shout out to Mase for putting on a phenomenal show and securing the bag. But I'm definitely coming to get my bag. It ain't nobody that do a better morning show than me, and I'm coming to get my bag. Let me read a couple of the super chats, and then we're going to continue on with the show. We're going to continue on with the show. Tech Coach Ralph says, shout out to the bag chasers. If y'all not a part of the Patreon, link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I appreciate you, Tech Coach Ralph, for rocking out with me. Thank you, my friend, for contributing to the platform. Matthew Washington says, would you be willing to patch it up with B. Taylor and do a one-on-one? I mentioned it to her in a live, and she seemed, I don't have no beef with nobody. I don't have no beef with, listen, I have zero beef with nobody. I have zero beef with nobody at all. I may not necessarily agree with your talking points or what it is that you do, but I tell you what, I have zero beef with nobody at all. Zero. Shout out to Matthew Washington. I appreciate you for the super chat. Don23 says, Anton, salute. I'm 19, making $2,000 a month. How do I level up and become the best complete version of myself? The world is becoming ultra competitive, and I don't want to remain at the bottom along with the betas. Any advice for me? All right, so this is what I would tell you, Don. The first thing that you have to do, the biggest thing is that you can't have self-inflicted wounds. Most people suffer or they get behind, not necessarily because they're in competition, but because they try to skip steps and then they have self-inflicted wounds as a result of trying to shortcut, right? A, you only 19. So congratulations to you for making money. B, don't go into debt. C, don't have a child out of wedlock. E, do not have consumer debt such as credit cards, student loans, or anything like that. But I also need to know, A, how you're making your money, and then B, what it is that you're doing with it, right? Because at 19 and 20 and 21, 22, it's not so much about you getting money. It's more about you not having self-inflicted wounds, but you investing in yourself. So you do still need to have an education because you need the biggest shovel possible to be able to make as much money possible. And then you also got to be okay with being broke at the early part of your life. You got to be okay with not going out to try to get your own place, but staying in your mother's place as long as possible, regardless of whether or not everybody else is having fun or it look like they partying. They just getting a bunch of debt and they're not doing anything in their own best interest. Whatever it is that you're doing for a living, do not take on debt in order to do it. And then B, also continue to invest in yourself, because once you get to that 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, that's when you really start making money. I'll give you an example, right? Think about it like a doctor, somebody that becomes a physician or somebody that becomes a surgeon. Often at times, they're the brokest ones in college. They eating ramen every day, they rooming up or whatever. But the reason that they operate like that and they spending so much time investing in themselves is not based off of how much they can make now, but how much they're going to make in the future, right? So you have to be very, very disciplined not to spend money on anything outside of what's going to add value into your life. Don't get involved with people that's going to take away from you. And then make sure that you understand that early investing, whether it's in your portfolio or investing in you is the thing that's going to compound as far as the amount of money that you're going to make long term. All right. Phenomenal question. Let me read a couple more super chats. Miss Crow T. Shetty is in the building. I appreciate you for the vibe ball, Miss Crow T. Shetty. Thank you. Silhouette, and make sure you join the Bag Chasers. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Silhouette says, Anton, you heard of the Mackenzie Shirla case? 19-year-old girl facing life for purposely killing her and his boyfriend for driving into a wall at 100 miles an hour. I have not. Send that to me. Email it to me. AntonDaniels413@gmail.com. Emailed it to me. I'm not familiar with that case. I was in Japan. Delt Rec says, hold on, let me get that one. Delt Rec says, we need a show talking about all these hoes living out of hotel rooms and raising their kids in them, especially in South Florida. Really? Send it to me. We might have to address that on Wednesday. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you for continuing to rock with me. Let's see what else we got over here. Levite Apparel says, Anton, welcome back. Blessings. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, big dog. And thank you for continuing to rock out with me. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Fresh and fit, right? Fresh and fit. Obviously, I was familiar with what happened. I seen everybody reacting to it. One of the reactions that I got or that I was able to pay attention to was the lead attorney, right? Shout out to TLA. Shout out to the lead attorney. Phenomenal, absolutely exceptional YouTuber. I don't even want to reduce the lead attorney or any of my fellow content creators as YouTubers. I want to say that they are phenomenal content creators. Shout out to the lead attorney. Shout out to everybody that's putting in the work on a regular basis. More than 95, 96, 97% of content creators fail. It's a greater number of failure when it comes to content creators than it is of people starting their own business, their own small business. It's a fact. Over 95, 96, 97% of content creators, people that start a YouTube channel, people that try to quit their job, become content creators, 95, 96, 97% of them fail. It's a fact. It is one of the hardest things for you to do. If you succeed as a content creator, it should trump anything that you've done before that. It should trump anything that you've done before that. And so when I see my fellow content creators, whether I like them or whether I dislike them, I have to give them some level of props because they are successful at what they do. And so that takes us over to Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit. Now, these are young guys, and I'm not sure exactly how old they are, but I'm sure that they're in their upper 20s or early 30s. I'm thinking that they're in their mid to upper 20s, right? And these are guys that wind up having a platform that was wildly popular. And when I say wildly popular, I'm saying wildly popular. I mean, one thing that you can't say is that they didn't work very hard, and that they had popularity for what it was that they was doing. Now, when I seen this emergency meeting live, because I seen this pop up on my algorithm way before everybody started reacting to it, I said, what is this? So I watched a portion of it and I said, this is very interesting. So let me go ahead and play a little bit of it. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts on what's going on.
Hi, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit
Fast Forward
podcast, man. As you guys know, we had a show scheduled earlier with
I'm a fast forward. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit.
Cancel because we got some really sucky news.
Crazy news.
Yeah, crazy news, real talk.
Yeah.
Right now we're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble. And guys, I mean,
is this the end, bro? Because we got some bad news, man. I mean, when I heard, I was shocked because I mean, we love YouTube, man.
Yeah.
We love streaming.
Yeah.
And at this point, I feel like our whole lives are revolved around streaming and like adding value to people online. It's just like it won't be the same, bro.
Yeah.
What we heard.
In 2020, guys, as you guys know, I was working for the government, right? I was a special agent of Homeland Security. He worked for Wix, we'll just call it.
Yeah.
Right.
Wix.com, yeah.
And he was a tech support. I was arresting bad guys, etc. We started this podcast. We did our first episode on October 26th, 2020. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
so what they're basically saying is that they took a leap. They bet on themselves. I'm gonna give y'all the real. I'm not gonna tell you the thing that y'all want to hear. I'm gonna tell you the honest to God truth of what my thoughts are based off of what's being communicated here. They saying that, we started a platform. He was an FBI agent. The other one was working at Wix.com. They took a leap of faith. They created a podcast. They invested in themselves. They went into this apartment, so on and so forth. And they said, we're going to start a platform and we're going to do some great things or whatever, so on and so forth, right? So they started this platform and obviously it became wildly popular, but let's continue.
Yeah, Chris was there. The apartment was all empty and shit. And, and we had our first podcast. If you guys go back and watch it, like the thing was all zooming in and out and everything else like that. And it was all messed up.
It was like we're at a house club.
Yeah.
In and out.
Yeah. It was literally, yeah. But we got it figured out. We got the lighting fixed and, we continue to improve. Fresh landed some really good guests early on.
I'm going to be reading a super chat shortly.
And continues to get us a great guest. And
we made hours of content in the streets, TikTok, Patreon.
Yeah.
Many nights, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Chris was there too.
While working jobs.
And
then I'll never forget, I get an email November 14th, Internal Affairs. Hey, we need you to come in for an interview. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Right. And I'm working at the government, sitting at my desk, writing up a report, and I see this email. And this is 2020 November. And I, I go, I let my supervisor know, hey, I got to go up to, the Internal Affairs office, right? Because it's not at the same building as us. And, I go over there and they take my phone. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? And then, and then they're like, they didn't want to tell me, but they're like, hey, it's part of an internal investigation. Next, they add me up with the, the special agent in charge. And they tell me, hey, it has to do with your YouTube. And right there it clicked. I was like, wait, hold on. Okay.
All right. So long story short, what he's basically saying is that, like most of us, when we start our journey during YouTube, most of us have a regular job. Right? I know the lead attorney, he was still practicing, and now I believe him, I'm not sure. I think that he's retired now because he's made so much money on YouTube. Let's just be real, right? Me personally, I retired in 2017, but it wasn't off of YouTube. I retired in 2017 just based off of the fact that I was doing well. I got out of the restaurant business. No, I'm sorry, 2019. My father died in 2017. In 2019, I decided to get out of the restaurant business. My other business was doing well. I retired. I quit my job. A lot of people are already familiar with this story. My back chasers have seen my W-2s. So obviously you guys can validate all of this other type of stuff, right? Went and got my Pistons tickets, floor seats, became a season ticket holder on the floor. And I was set to live happily ever after. Got bored, decided to go full-time into content creation, got an offer I couldn't refuse to go back into corporate America. And that's where I'm still at today, still contemplating when it is that I'm going to leave corporate America. But I still have that in my back pocket. But a lot of content creators wind up blowing up. Some content creators, I'm not going to say a lot. A lot is relative because we only know the people that we know. But the fact of the matter is most people fail when it comes to content creation, and so they still have to keep their regular jobs every day, right? It starts off as a hobby or it starts off as something that you aspire to do, but then you wind up having to quit your regular job, so on and so forth. They've been so successful and they've created, a platform that generates so much revenue regardless of where it is that you stand. You can't deny the fact that they work their ass off. You cannot deny, because I don't care what type of content you put out, you will not be successful if you do not put in the work, regardless. You cannot be successful if you don't put in the work. And the one thing that you can't take away from them, you can say that, I don't like the fact that they got pissed that everybody was reacting to their stuff and had negative things to say about them. I know that I'm familiar with, they sent copyright strikes to literally I heard tens and hundreds of YouTube content creators or whatever, and then they had to walk that back, so on and so forth, right? But the fact of the matter is, you don't agree with that, but you have to be able to take the meat and spit out the bones. They had some goodest, dedicated work ethic, right? You may not have liked Fresh because Fresh may not have been as inspirational as far as the person that you take advice from on, how to use your car to get girls, but you can't say that Fresh wasn't a great networker. And so to be objective, you have to say, yo, they put in the work. Let me play a little bit more, and then I'm going to give you my finishing thoughts on this, because I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be 100% honest about what my thoughts are.
They probably think that I'm recording videos on my phone.
A little bit.
I remember you were there. Yeah. We had Andrew here. And I was like, well, we got people working for us now. There's people that depend on us. You had pretty much quit your gig. So I was like, all right, I'm going to resign. And I walked in December 5th, turned in all my stuff. And I walked away from the U.S. government. It was a good, six-figure job. It was stable. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. You guys know on my Fed Reacts, you guys see how I talk when I'm talking on that channel. And
somebody tell me whether or not all of their channels are demonetized, right? Because I know he got the Fed Reacts channel. I know the Fresh and Fit channel was both of them. And then I know Fresh, which I think his name is Walter. I think he got his own channel too. Somebody tell me whether or not all of their channels are demonetized, or if it's just the Fresh and Fit channel. But let's continue.
Yeah, and I haven't. I tell you guys that story to tell you that I haven't felt like that since today, and it sucks, guys. It really does suck. Fortunately, we made some moves, etc. And we kind of saw.
Damn, all channels. Sheesh. Sheesh. Man, that would hurt my heart. I ain't even gonna lie to you. That would absolutely hurt my heart. I would be 1,000% heartbroken. That's crazy. That is insane. How did they get them all? How did they get them all? Oh, man. Oh, man. Sheesh.
Knew that the type of content that we make, for us to be able to give you this content, we have to.
It comes at a cost.
It comes at a cost, dude.
And it won't be here forever.
Yeah. And Fresh always said this, enjoy us while you can.
Yeah. They thought we was capping, man.
Yeah.
They thought it was a joke.
And we made moves on the side knowing that this could potentially happen. And guys, the channel has been kicked off the YouTube Partner Program.
All right, so let me give my thoughts. Y'all said they got over $100,000 a month in super chats alone. Sheesh. Sheesh. The one thing that's in the air for everybody is that nobody actually knows why they got kicked off. Everything that we're saying and everything that we're talking about is pure speculation. Nobody actually knows why they got kicked off. I believe that they know. I believe that they've communicated with YouTube, and YouTube let them know exactly what it is that's wrong with them and why it is that they got kicked off the platform. I believe that they know why they got kicked off, but I don't think that they are going to divulge why they got kicked off. And so that just leaves us all to speculation, right? I heard about, which I have not watched, I've heard about the little live stream that they did off the platform where they was on Sneakos or something like that platform, and they had the hood on or whatever, you know what I'm saying, imitating the KKs and all of that. I heard about I don't know. Some people are saying it's misogyny and how it is that they dealt with the women on the platform. Some people are saying it's a combination of that the KK thing was the final straw. I don't believe that any of that stuff was the reason that they got kicked off. I don't believe that any of that stuff was the reason that they kicked off. I think that they got kicked off for something that probably was happening behind the scenes. Honestly, I think that when they tried to strike a bunch of people's channel, that they put them in the hot seat with YouTube. I think that at some point, that put them on the radar, and then maybe they tried to implement it again or something like that, or got pissed at somebody, and then it just went south from there. I don't believe that it was the hood thing that they did with Sneeko. And again, we all just left to speculate. We're not going back and, you know what I'm saying? We can't definitively say it was one thing or another thing, but it's just a combination of all of the different things. And when you get to that point, you start to put yourself, you know, at arm's risk of then being, you know, not being able to do it. Right? YouTube, let me tell you, YouTube will say, let's say you file a false copyright strike. Or let's say you file a copyright strike, but you may misinterpret it. YouTube gives you leniency. YouTube will be like, listen, I don't know if that's a copyright strike. You might want to take that one back. I don't know but I guess that if you do it for a whole lot of people all at the same time and you got some lawyer doing it or something like that, then that can be a problem. Here's my thoughts on it, right? Here's my honest to God thoughts. Two things. Number one, I pray to God that they diversified. I know they out here riding around in Lambos. Well, I know that Fresh is. Fresh shows his off. So Fresh is out here in a Lambo, and he got his trucks and stuff like that. And somebody sent me a video where he was holding a little doggy or whatever, like the pimp or something like that. I hope they diversified. I hope that they didn't put all of their stuff in one basket. I hope that they not paying payments. I hope that they paid cash for whatever it is that they got, so that, you know, you don't get caught up in that wave and then having to get your stuff repossessed. Here's my learned lessons, because forget whether or not they got deplatformed. What do we take away from this and what do we learn from it? All right. The first thing that you learn from it is that whatever it is that you make, you need to go and put right back into reinvesting into what it is that you have. Whatever. I don't care if you're a rapper and you got a one-hit wonder, or you dropped a hot 16 or whatever, so on and so forth. Make sure that you do not increase your lifestyle according to how much money you're making on YouTube. Make sure your assets then pay for your lifestyle, because if you ever lose it, you don't want to be dependent on this money in order for you to continue to survive or maintain whatever it is that you're doing. That's A. B, never put all your eggs in one basket. Always make sure that you have things to fall back on. C, it can happen to any of us. So I am not glad that they are kicked off, right? We don't always all agree on the different things that each other is making, but I'm going to just tell you, as content creators, what happens or how somebody is affected. I'll give you an example. It goes back to the Camron and them situation. If you don't think part of the reason why the $1 million worth of game got their bag was as a result of what happens over with Nori and them as far as Drink Champs, is as a result of what happened over into the Breakfast Club and them getting their bag, all of them is getting bigger bags and bigger bags. It's similar to how it happens in the NBA and the NFL. You benefit from how well other content creators is doing, because then people start to understand that this is the wave and this is where they want to spend their money investing. If you don't think it is what it is with Camron and Mase is benefiting as a result of the people that came before them that then was successful as far as their podcasting deals, that Joe Rogan paved the way for a lot of people to get paid even if they're not getting as big of bags, then you don't get it. What Fresh and Fit was doing on their side of the road and the type of content that they created is completely different, or it's largely unaffecting what I'm doing as far as from a content that I'm putting out. However, if you don't think that as a content creator, when censorship, right, was a big thing on YouTube and they was demonetizing everybody's videos, that hit everybody. When they started demonetizing the video game players because of the violence that was in those games, that started to hit everybody, right? And so I don't believe in celebrating when people are down. I just don't. And I understand that other people got different experiences with them and whatever, so on and so forth. I don't believe in celebrating when people are down. I never want anybody to lose the thing that they worked extra hard for, because that is completely different than us having a disagreement fundamentally in what it is that you believe in. I don't believe that people that's in the alphabet community should lose their humanity Although I may not necessarily agree with their lifestyle, you still deserve to work. If you're good at what you do for a living and you're good at your job, then you should be able to still run up that bag, run up that check. So I just think that I think them losing their monetization is bad for the whole industry. I do. I genuinely do. I think that, and again, I'm not their demographic. I never wanted to go on their show. People kept saying, Anton, you be in Miami. Nah, I'm straight. I'm good. Never my thing, right? But I never, ever want to see somebody else lose their platform, especially when we're in the same industry as content creators. We all content creators. I don't want to see that. That's not a good look. That's never a good look. When one actor suffers, another actor suffers. When one basketball player get a really great contract, it sets up the contract for the next basketball player to come behind him and then become successful. Never wish on another man's downfall, especially financially. Never wish on another man's downfall. That's the biggest thing. And then lastly, make sure that you do not ever raise your lifestyle up into the money that you get. Make sure that you invest the money that you make into things that make you more money, and then you can start enjoying the fruits of your labor. But never be over dependent on any of this stuff, because it could be gone tomorrow. People could, listen, forget the demonetization. People could stop rocking with you. People can genuinely just stop rocking with you and say, you know what? You fell off. We don't really like what it is that you're putting out anymore. You're not hot anymore. We don't want to continue to watch you anymore. Then what you gonna do? It happens to rappers, entertainers, podcasters. We see it happen all the time. People just fall off because they're not hot no more. They don't know how to create anymore. They had a niche. It was hot at the time. It's not hot anymore. They don't know how to adapt. They don't know how to move into a different market. And so their time is up. So it's a lot. It's a lot of gems that we can take from this. And again, I understand that different people have different experiences with them. My experience, I never had one with them. I don't take a side. I did feel a certain type of way about certain things that was happening with Kevin Samuels, but Kevin Samuels was alive to handle it at that time in particular, so that wasn't my business. But the fact of the matter is, I genuinely don't want people to lose. And I see people in the chat, they say, well, they disrespected a lot of people's ancestors. You do too. We've all done stuff in our lifetime that somebody else didn't like or somebody else felt disrespected as a result of it. Do you then deserve to lose your job as a result of that also? And again, I'm not YouTube. I can't determine whether or not they should be monetized or demonetized. I hope they get their monetization back. I don't have any dog in the fight as far as what it is that they got. But listen, this is the pot calling the kettle black. If you do not have a direct conflict with them, then I don't see why you should be wishing for somebody else's downfall. Everybody in their lifetime has done something that somebody else disagreed with or somebody else felt disrespected by, but nobody is wishing for you to lose your job as a result of it. Come on, man. Come on, man. And I think that they'll be all right. They're going to figure it out. Everybody go through things in their life. I had lost my job in 2008 during the recession. Everybody goes through stuff. Everybody has a down part. But don't kick people while they down. If I'm going to be in competition with you, I want to beat you while you up. I don't want to win by technical default. I don't want to win as a result of, hey, well, you got disqualified, so now I get the gold ring. Nah, I'm just different. I'd rather compete, and I want to compete on a whole nother wave. I don't want to compete in the way that everybody else. People say a win is a win. Not for me. I think how you win matters. Christian Hutchinson says you should do a special. Jesus Christ. You should do a special Lapeef Network rejects. Basically, everyone you fired, kicked off, or beefed on platform like a 3-hour timed smoke show. Nah. I appreciate the super chat, but for what? For me, it was it was content. You know what I'm saying? And on a content level, we had fundamental disagreements, so we had to do what we had to do. However, I don't wish that they lose their job or anything like that. I'm not on that type of time. I'm in a different space. I'm a more positive person. I want my $30 million. You know what I'm saying? I want my $30 million. Me doing a reject show on them is not going to give me my $30 million. You know what I'm saying, Chris Hutchinson? I appreciate you, though. Ken J says, Fresh can't believe his time is up. Going back to tech support is going to be brutal. Y'all wild. Y'all are wild, bro. The new era of music says, do you think marriage will be a thing of the past down the road? If not, do you see marriage down the road 10 to 15 years from now? How do you see marriage 10 to 15 years down the road? Shout out to Anton. I think that the marriage is going to always be around because people still believe in the institution of marriage and they don't really understand marriage. I think that the dynamics of what a marriage is supposed to be is going to change. And I'll go over that on Wednesday. I think marriage is going to be absolutely different. I think the dynamic of what marriage is going to be different. I'll go into that. That's a phenomenal question. I appreciate you. Somebody in the chat said Fresh and Fit would have celebrated if that was Abba and Preach. It's people that would celebrate me, but that don't mean that I'm going to do what it is that they do. I don't define my actions by what other people do. I don't define what I'm going to do based off of what other people do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and then everybody else going to have to be accountable for whatever it is that they do to whoever they God is or whatever it is that they stand for. That don't have nothing to do with me. Mr. Maximus says, I rock with Fresh and Fit. Seems like they getting the Tate treatment. Sounds like a conspiracy because it's an election year, attack against men and conservatives. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you, big dog. Forever Snoop is in the building, says, how did Myron get his hairline back? That's the real question asking for me. Y'all are some wild boys out here in these streets. Yo, we got over about 2,600 people watching. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Corey says they filed false claims against the lead attorney, then refused to withdraw the allegations. Well, see, that's the thing. If you refuse to withdraw the allegations, then that's different. You got to play by the rules. 10 separate violations. He was a better attorney. Shout out to the lead attorney. We like the lead attorney. Appreciate you. Wealth Building Journey is in the building. Says could be from litigation vis-a-vis Tucker Carlson. Could be. I don't know. They didn't take their channel down. They just removed the monetization. From what I heard, they got into it with a chick last week because of a super chat had identified her being from a group, and they got into an argument. That group has taken out bigger fish. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Jamal says, Anton, would you say it's appropriate to pay off debt rather than reinvesting once you start your businesses, or reinvest first? I would say that's a difficult question because if it depends on the type of business and it depends on what it is that you scale into. If you reinvesting into the business ultimately makes you a significantly amount more money based off of the results that you already have, then I would say reinvesting into the business. However, debt, you already know what it is that you're losing. So a lot of people need to pay off that debt. It depends on what it is that you're doing, right? If you can scale the business to make more money, that would ultimately pay off your debt faster, but you know exactly what it is that you're losing with your debt. So that's a really good question. It depends on the business and it depends on the circumstances around the business and how much more money you're going to make from scaling. TB says YouTube sponsors huge entities like the NBA, NFL, etc. And number 2, anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Number 3, Rumble advertising on YouTube platform. Number 4, Nick Fuentes is enemy of the GOP. Ironically, they never went against the LGBT too hard. All of that can make sense. It all comes back down to the money. The Washing Pro, shout out to you for the 20 ball. I appreciate you. Thank you, my friend, for holding me down. Let me get into a few more super chats and then we're going to get it rocking. Let me see. The Washing Pro. All right, we got that. And what up, Khalil is in the building, says sad, not a fresh and tired. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Mr. Exclusive Josh says, what up, AD? I'm a fan of your content. I want to start an animated YouTube channel and be successful. Any advice for me? Also, how can I join the Bag Chasers? I want to level up financially because I'm single. Shout out to you, big dog. Well, the link to the Patreon is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. That's the Bag Chasers. As far as starting a YouTube channel and being successful at it, I'll give you 3 things. Number 1, whatever it is that you post on YouTube, and this is for all content creators, whatever it is that you post on YouTube, you got to scale up and you got to be consistent. So, for example, you can't start off posting 5 videos a week and then scale down to 1 or 2. You're going to lose your audience because they come to expect for you to be able to be consistent, right? So whatever you do, you want to start off light and then you want to scale up. Same thing as in a relationship. You don't start off running a 100-yard dash. You start off jogging. You know what I'm saying? And then you scale up, right? You work your way into it. So you start off 1, and then once you be consistent with that every single week, then maybe you want to expand over into twice a week, maybe Wednesdays and Sundays. Then 3 times and 4 times. But you never go backwards. Whatever it is that you do, you got to make sure that you scale up. You don't scale down. That's A. Number 2, content is king, right? So just posting a lot and being consistent will be nothing if you're not actually giving them the value for what it is. Don't worry about the growth. The growth is going to come over a period of time once you find your niche and once you show consistency. The videos that took off for me was some that I least expected, and then they wound up being over 700,000 views, 1 million views, so on and so forth. And then it was up from there. 3rd, thumbnails. Thumbnails are everything because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So if you post an interesting thumbnail or your thumbnails look good, chances are people are going to check out your content. Make sure that you front load your content, especially as an early content creator, because if you don't have a lot of subscribers and people don't have a lot of trust in you, they have to be able to see the value within the first 10 to 15 seconds of the video before they start to watch it. Otherwise, they'll click off. It'll jump out of the algorithm because YouTube don't want to recommend anything that people are not interested in, right? So let me recap that. Thumbnail, interesting content from the very outset of the video to keep people interested and keep people watching. That's 2. 3, consistency. And then 4, you got to put out good content. Anything less than that, and as long as you do those things consistently, you will be successful as a YouTube content creator. And don't worry about trying to tap into the same audience as everybody else. Your tribe will find you. It's 9 billion people on this earth, all right? Foster said, Camron said they haven't even touched Mase's 250,000 yet. Shout out to them boys. Mark Pierce with the 10 ball. I appreciate you for holding me down, my friend. Thank you for holding me down. That is absolutely awesome. Let me read a couple more. Qbert Rame says you deserve at least 50 million, big dog. I appreciate it. Matter of fact, let me get an applause for that one. Let me get an applause for that one. Thank you guys for continuing to hold me down. Let's continue over with the show. Let's start off with this one right here. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. Self-made forever and everybody that contributes to the platform. I appreciate you guys. Most people, considering that we just came off of that conversation about Myron and Fresh and them losing a platform, and I'm pretty sure it seems like Myron is pretty frugal. He doesn't seem like the type of person that's been splurging on anything like that. I recently heard that he said that he got like a $1 or $2 million net worth based off of what he's been doing or whatever. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. You can be living paycheck to paycheck even if you make a lot of money. That's the myth. That's the myth, is that people think that just because you may make 100,000 or you make 50,000 or you make 250,000 or you make $1 million a year, most people are still. Did you know that the average person that makes $100,000 a year is still living paycheck to paycheck? Because most people increase their lifestyle based off of how much they make. Just like you get a job, you get a raise, you get a better car, you get a bigger home, so on and so forth. Most people adjust their lifestyle to how much money that they make. And it is a mistake. But we're going to get into it. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. We're going into the money, ladies and gentlemen.
The average American says they need to earn $233,000 a year to be financially comfortable. But in 2021, American workers on average made only $75,203 and
the average person says that they need to make $233,000 a year in order to live comfortable. The average person says they need to make $233,000 a year in order to be comfortable. Chat, I'm curious. regardless of what platform you own. I know we got over 2,500 people in here. Some of y'all are viewing this on Facebook. Some of y'all are viewing this on YouTube. Put in the chat how much you need to make a year in order to be comfortable, in order to be happy and comfortable. How much do you need to make a year in order to be happy and comfortable?
Annually.
Americans are sort of looking at how much money they would like to have to be financially secure, and that ends up being basically 3 times what the average income is in this country. And to be essentially wealthy or really successful, it's magnitudes above that.
72% of Americans said they weren't financially secure given their current finances. And more than a quarter of Americans said they'll likely never be financially secure.
That means that you're going to work for the rest of your life. That means that you're going to work until you die. I see some people saying 120, 300,000, 75,000, 77, 400, 60, 80, 60,000, 80,000, a million, 250, 120, 125, 70, 100, and 250,000. In order to be comfortable, 200,000. 200,000, 100,000, a half a million, 150, 150. Yo, it sounds like y'all don't even think $100,000 is a high value man anymore. Remember when everybody a few years ago would say he got to make 6 figures? Now y'all saying it's way more than that. Okay, let's continue.
By the numbers, their debt is lower and their savings are higher coming out of the pandemic, but they're more anxious about what's going to happen next, if they have job stability, if they're going to be able to have secure retirement.
With well over half of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, many are failing to meet some of their modest financial goals.
Somebody in the chat said they make over $300,000 a year in Atlanta and they feel broke. The person that's making $60,000 a year is going to say to you, "You wildin', son." But then when you explain to them exactly what your expenses are and you show them your budget, they're going to be like, damn, that's more of a burden. Did you know that making money and being successful financially can be more of a burden than not having money at all? Anto says 7 million. Sheesh. Annually?
Actually, millions of people struggling. It's not something that people want to talk about, but if you're in a place where your financial security feels super precarious, you're not alone. And it's not your fault.
So how did it become so difficult to be financially secure in America? And what can you do about it? Let's do some budgeting. Americans working full-time earned a median monthly income of about $4,400 during the second quarter of 2023.
Which is the equivalent of, well, they said during the second quarter of 2023. All right. So let's assume that, $4,400 a month. And I don't know if that's gross or net. $4,400 a month is the equivalent of a little bit more than $50,000 a year on average. All right.
The average worker takes home 75.2% of gross wages after taxes and benefits, shrinking the take-home pay to about $3,388. And that just isn't enough to cover the cost of living in America today.
The cost of healthcare.
Can you survive off of $3,300 a month, y'all? Can you survive off of $3,300 a month? Nah, I don't want y'all switching it up on me now, because a year ago, y'all was trying to kick my butt when I told y'all that $40,000, $50,000 enough is not enough for y'all to be able to take care of a family in 4, and y'all told me that I was out of my mind. Remember that? Remember that? Don't switch up on me now. Don't switch up on me now.
That has skyrocketed. The cost of attending college has skyrocketed. The cost of purchasing a home has skyrocketed. But nowhere has anyone said wage growth is up 15%, right?
Take a look at some of the most essential expenses for Americans. The median monthly rent in the US is $2,029 as of June 2023. That amount already accounts for over 46% of the Americans' median pre-tax income. But most US agencies classify spending more than 30% of one's gross monthly income on rent as being rent-burdened. Meanwhile, the median mortgage payment for a 2,400 square foot house was $1,957 per month.
Who needs a 2,400 square foot house? So okay, look. Is it that the cost of living is super expensive? Or is it that our expectations are outsized? Is it? No, let's just be honest. Or is it a combination of both? Is it that the cost of living is too expensive or our expectations are outsized? Who needs a 2,400 square foot home? And I didn't say want, I said need. Who needs? Needs, not want. Not you wanted an extra space for you to do yoga in and all of this other type of stuff. Y'all need to honestly travel to some of these other countries. Y'all need to travel to some of these other places and other countries. They not living like y'all. They are very efficient. They have lifestyle that they control, minimalism, minimal spaces. They all congregate and go outside and eat together. They go outside and work out. They don't have to have a home gym. You do not need 2,400 square feet. Again, need. Luxury, difference. Need is a completely different conversation, especially if you're over there living by yourself single.
Month. However, a common rule of thumb advises spending 28% or less of your pre-tax income on mortgage payments. For the median gross monthly earnings, that translates to just $1,232.
As we talk to households and talk to consumers out in the real world, especially those, say, under 40, housing is the big issue. You know, rent, mortgage. It is the biggest concern that people aren't going to be able to make the next payment.
Inflation is really hurting individuals having stability in their housing. And I think sometimes we underestimate that if you have uncertainty in your housing, it causes uncertainty everywhere.
Yep,
housing is
true.
Also the reason why
She's
cities have become more
right.
difficult to afford. Americans said it would require more than $1 million in net worth to be financially comfortable in places like San Francisco, New York, and Southern California.
This is why we've seen some migration or mobility around the country where some people say, I'm living in a high-cost state like California or New York. We really want to sort of pack up and go to an area that's less expensive. And one of the ironies of that is those places that were cheaper before are now becoming more expensive.
Which is why they keep telling y'all, don't come over to where we live at, because a lot of the people sold their homes, moved out of California, and then they moved over to places where everybody else was at or that was cheaper. And then the people that was over in those areas was like, get up out of here because we don't necessarily want you here. We don't necessarily want you here because you driving up the cost of living of what it is that we got going on over here. A lot of these Californians moved over to Vegas. They moved to Texas. They moved down to Florida. And then they ruined what it was that was happening over in those spaces because people were like, hey, it's costing us too much because you driving up the cost of what it is that we making over here. Let's continue.
Americans spend on average $690.75 on food every month, according to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That amount is significantly higher than any of USDA's
Is this per person?
Including more generous and liberal food plans. Add the out-of-pocket health expenditures that cost the average Americans $96.42 every month, and you get a total expense of $2,816.17 for renters and $2,744.17 for homeowners. That amount already accounts for 85% of the median take-home pay for average American renters and over 82% for an average homeowner. This is excluding other essential expenses like transportation, childcare, and debt payments.
Many Americans are really struggling with just the increase of costs of living and food and housing. Utility bills have gone up. Car insurance has gone up. Homeowners insurance has gone up. And how can they pay for them but also meet other goals that they have to?
Budgeting experts advise Americans to spend just 50% of their net income on essentials, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings or payments.
I got a completely different model inside of the Patreon because everything that we do is percentage-based that's similar to this. And so the thing that I advise most people to do when they putting together their budget specifically is to break it down based off of percentages. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what those percentages are because you need to watch that video. If you are a bag chaser, if you're a Patreon member, that link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. And you have not watched that video, then you need to make sure that you go and watch that video inside of the Patreon of how it is that I manage my expenses and my budget. I still do it the same way regardless of whether you make $100,000 a year, whether you make $50,000 a year, or whether or not you make $1 million a year. Your budget should be based off of percentages, right? Now, the caveat to that is as you continue to make more money, the amount that you have to use for that specific percentage of the budget goes down. I'll give you an example. Let's say you get a raise or an increase, or over the next 2 to 3 years, you go from making $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year, right? If you're making $200,000 a year, that does not necessarily mean that you need to increase the amount of money that you're spending on your housing. That means that the amount of money that you have going into fixed expenses, we break that down into fixed expenses, variable expenses, so on and so forth, right? That means the amount of money that you then have to be able to invest in assets that then give you a return on your money is greater. And then you can start writing off the amount of money that you have or the amount of money that you're spending because you invested it in your business. So if you're making $100,000 a year, but you've continued to maintain a reasonable lifestyle, but then you start to make $200,000 a year. Well, if you're making $200,000 a year, it's a strong possibility that you're going to start going into a different tax bracket, which means you're going to give more money over into the federal government. Instead of doing that, you need to spend more money on your businesses. Don't increase your lifestyle. Don't increase your housing. Don't increase your variable expenses. Don't get another car, right? You need to start diving into investing $100,000. You still want to live off that $100,000 that you're making. You want to spend $100,000 on your business because now you have the ability to be able to throw that into assets, right? Next thing you know, your tax bracket is still the same because you're able to write off the business expenses associated with investing in yourself and investing in your businesses, which you then can justify the amount of money. Now your money is making money on top of money and you're starting to build assets, right? That's the life hack. The life hack is that you don't change a lifestyle until your asset starts to spit off money that you can then justify in order to do so. Most people make more money, but most people still live in paycheck to paycheck. Most people make more money, but most people live paycheck to paycheck. The biggest criticism for me, for a lot of people is, well, why didn't Anton go out and get a big old mansion? Well, why would I do that when I can continue to invest in things that's going to throw off more resources and money for me long term, right? The thing that they don't talk about is the live streams that we do inside of the Patreon that show you exactly how it is that I'm building rental properties from scratch. Why do I do that? Because I need to get rid of more money. The more money I make, the more money I need to get rid of so I can pay lower taxes than you. Because the government incentivizes real estate holders and business people in order to invest in themselves. And so I don't pay as much in taxes as you, but my net worth is increasing. And the thing that we need to start having a conversation about is not how much money you make. When you see somebody talk and they talk about how much money they make, we don't want to know about that. We want to know two things. We want to know how much money you keep and how much you actually accumulating in assets. Listen, when y'all go and sit at the dinner table and you get over the little dumb stuff and y'all start asking each other, what do y'all do for a living? Let's not talk about that no more. Let's start talking about what is your investment strategy long term and how do you view money? Forget how much money you make because you can have just as much debt and be drowning if you don't know how to manage it effectively. Stop having conversations with your family. Forget the dating table. Talk about your family. Stop having conversations with your family about what job and who's going to college first. And, oh my God, this is the first person in our family to ever go to school. Forget that. The conversation that you need to be having with your family is how is it that we can keep more of our money and not give it over to the federal government legally? How much money are you keeping and how many assets are you accumulating? How can we keep this in the family without paying capital gains taxes? What's going to happen if you die and then we have to pay taxes on top of that as a result of you having to pass that on to us, right? Estate taxes. Should we move this over into a trust or no? How can we protect ourselves against the other businesses that may have liability, right? That may have some problems later on down the line. What if we get sued? What happens to our personal stuff because you're still sitting in the sole proprietorship versus at least in an LLC, right? How do you then differentiate? Biggest hack. Want me to give you one of the life hacks? Well, if you have a corporation and you pay yourself a salary, then the woman that's trying to take child support from you has to base it off how much you pay yourself, not how much money you generate or how much money the business generates. Because you're not a sole proprietorship, right? You don't have to file that on your taxes because you're able to separate it versus filing a Schedule C from what it is that you're actually paying yourself through the business. The business is a completely separate entity than you as a personal individual. The business pays its own taxes. It has its own incentive. So then if you paying yourself a specific salary, the only thing that the court can go off of is how much you paying yourself, not necessarily how much money that you're generating. So when we having these conversations, right, it's a lot of ways in which you can mitigate the amount of money that you have to give over to things that don't really make a difference and to solve for a lot of the problems that we see happening in society until we get the family court laws changed. But if you not paying attention and you having a wrong conversation about how to have a money phone and how to generate a certain level of revenue instead of how to keep more money in your pocket, then you're going to absolutely fall behind the people that understand how money works. It's not just about how much money you make. It's how to keep it. It's how to keep it. It's how to keep it. Why do you think that a lot of these corporations, a lot of these CEOs only pay themselves $1? Why do you think that the majority of their compensation is not based off of their base salary, but is based off of the equity that they have inside of the company? Let's continue.
We see that allocation shifting significantly where people are spending 75% of their take home just on needs, which leaves very little for wants and very little for saving for your financial future. So depending upon where you live and of course your income, many Americans really cannot meet that target allocation.
So much of managing your financial life in America today is like drinking from a fire hose. Many households are not able to show up and impose a framework of their own design onto their finances. Many are still in this reactionary space where they're just trying to figure out how to make ends meet.
The Federal Reserve has implemented 11 interest rate hikes to combat inflation since March 2022. But more than a third of Americans...
You know what they're doing? They're making money more expensive for you to be able to borrow. The reason why people was able to pay $100,000, $75,000, $150,000 over asking price for the properties that they wanted back during the pandemic is because the cost of borrowing money was cheap. Meaning that the interest rates that you were paying and the payment that you were going to pay was an incentive for you to continue to keep spending, which drove up the cost of housing, drove up the cost of food, drove up the cost of gas, drove up the cost to be able to ship things. And so the way that the government was able to fight against that was that they started to raise rates. Right? And raising rates mean that the cost of doing business was going to cost more for you. So now you have to make a more informed decision of whether or not you want to borrow money in order to do the things that's meaningful to you, right?
said rising interest rates kept them from financial comfort.
Higher interest rates really can stand in the way of affordability for many financial activities or decisions that people want to engage in, and home purchases is sort of at the top of that list.
Look at the person who was going to buy a house that was, let's say, $375,000 2 years ago. Their monthly payment would have been less than $2,000. Now it's about $3,400.
Think about that. 2 years ago, during the pandemic, when rates was, 2%, 2.5%? Your payment was about $2,000 a month on your mortgage. Now, based off of the interest rates and how much it's going to cost you to be able to borrow money, you're going to be paying about $1,500 more than you was during the pandemic. The cost of money is cheaper. Meaning, I give you an example. Let me tell you how rich people think about money. A lot of people say, hey, if you can't pay for it cash, then you don't deserve to be able to buy a car. It's nonsense. It doesn't make sense. That's not how people that have money think. That's how ignorant people think, right? For example, if I can get close to nothing interest rate on being able to finance a car, unless I was able to write off the entirety of that in order to lower my tax burden, why would I then pay the entirety of that amount of money to be able to buy that car? If that car cost me $200,000, let's just say I'm getting a fly car, a really, really dope car, a Maybach, right? And it cost me $200,000. Why would I give away $200,000 when I can take that $200,000 and invest it in something else, since the money is cheap in order for me to be able to finance that thing? You're missing what I'm saying. It's costing me nothing long term. It's going to cost me close to the same amount of money for me to finance it, except for I can take the principal and apply it to something that's actually going to generate the revenue that then pays for the car anyway. If I can invest that $200,000 into a real estate deal, and let's say I get 15, 20% back on my money as a result of whatever type of real estate deal that I do, how much money is that, right? And how fast can I be able to flip that? What's the return on my investment? If I make 20% on $200,000, that's literally $40,000. However, if I take that $200,000 and I invest it in a car, that car is a depreciating asset. Now, unless you can get to a point to where you're writing off the entirety of that car, as a business expense in order to lower your taxes, then you're making the wrong type of investment. So usually what people that have resources do is they take the majority of their income, they invest it in assets, and then they let the assets pay for whatever it is that they're financing at a very, very low cost, because they're going to make way more money that covers the cost of whatever that car is if they're using that $200,000 differently than how you would use the $200,000. So most people are thinking about money wrong. When you look at the interest rates, that's why they're paying attention to it, because they're looking at the cost of money. How much is it going to cost me? Why do billionaires finance houses? They don't pay for their houses outright. They never pay for their houses outright. You know why? Because in order to be able to take the equity out of whatever it is that they invested in, most of the time it's their companies, they would have to pay taxes on that money and then be able to give that over to there. Why would they do that when they could just leverage the amount of equity that they have into that company into getting a very, very, very low interest loan that they then don't have to pay the taxes that come along with divesting themselves from the companies that they invested in? They're using money differently than you. They're using credit differently than you. We think that credit operates based off of being able to buy what you want to buy. They're using credit in order to minimize the amount of money that they have to pay in taxes over to the federal government to still do the same thing that they want to do every single day. It's a different game that's being played by people that understand how money works. And because you don't understand how money works, you use it differently. And so you think that making $100,000 is making $100,000. In reality, your $100,000 is really $67,000 to $70,000 after taxes if you live in any major city. You going to work in order to give $30,000 over to the federal government. I think that making $100,000 is making like $97,000, because the majority of that money is going to go back into the things that then I can invest it in and write it off as a business expense. Because the only thing that the government goes off of when you file your taxes, it's too much. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's continue.
And it's the same house, right? The only thing that has changed is the interest rate.
Purchasing a car is more expensive. It's more expensive to maintain a balance on a credit card with the new offers for a credit card, even for the best qualified individual.
What's better? Think about it like this. What's better, making $85,000 a year or $79,000 a year? It's a $6,000 difference. Most people would say, well, making more money. I got a raise on my job. I got a 10% raise. I was making $79,000 a year. I got a 10% raise. Now I'm going to make almost $90,000 a year. I'm making $86,000, $87,000, $88,000 a year. Well, what you don't know is that you just jumped from a 12% tax bracket to a 22% tax bracket, and the majority of those gains are going to be given back to the federal government because all you did was give them more money. That's why when people get raises, they say, well, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any different because you don't understand how money works. You jump from a 12% tax bracket to a 22% tax bracket. Then you start to have conversations. Well, what does getting married do for me? Well, it raises the tax threshold between me and my wife, because if she's a stay-at-home mom, how does that affect what it is that my kid is going to do when they feel like they FAFSA and get that Pell Grant? Now you're going to go to school. Remember when you was in school and you filed for your FAFSA and you said, well, my parents make too much money, but we don't really have that much money? That's the difference. That's the difference. You're jumping from tax bracket to tax bracket. And so you need to be very, very careful and understand exactly how much money you're giving away, right? Why is it important for you to be able to invest in your 401k? What's the difference between a 401k and a Roth 401k? How much money are you going to have? How much money are how much of your assets are tied into your home? What's the true cost of home ownership? Are you calculating all of the factors that go into it? If you're not a part of the Patreon, then you need to tap into the Patreon. If you're not a part of the Bag Chasers, then okay, so I don't know what I'm talking about, M. Rios. You sure about that? You sure about that? You're right, Seth. I am giving too much game. It's for the people that need it. It's for the people that really want it. We do it for the 1%, not the 99%. The average person takes home $67,000 to $70,000 after all of the taxes that come out of your paycheck if you're making $100,000 a year. It's a fact. Because it's not just federal taxes that go into it. It's a lot of other things that go into it also. We need to get over to the next story. Let me read some of the super chats. We're going to knock out these super chats and then we're going to get over to the next thing and then I'm going to get y'all up out of here. Let's see what we got here. Self-Made Forever is in the building. Says, AD, do you think giving your car back to the bank is worth the repo on my credit? I make payments, no problem. The 767, but I'd rather put that $800 a month into a business. Advice. This is a difficult thing. It depends on your circumstances, how much money you own on the car, how much you paying in interest. What will you then do from a credit perspective? What your lifestyle is like. I will say this, and I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you from experiences that I've seen. One of the biggest benefits to being married is that you got two different people that you can lean on from a credit perspective. During the 2008 crisis, when everything went to hell, I'll show you my old pictures. A lot of people has already seen them. In 2004 and 2005, I was driving a Bentley. I had Bentleys back in the early 2000s. Bentleys, Challengers in 2010, all of that shit. We already did all of that, right? One of the things that I realized is that none of this stuff means anything and it's going to drop off after 7 years anyway. But I didn't have my wife. Clutch said sell the car instead. Maybe. Not if he's upside down in the payment and not if the value of what that car is not going to exceed what it is that he can use in order to pay the car off. It's going to be difficult. Having a wife or being married, you can leverage that in so many different ways. But I'd have to know all of the details. Send me a message inside of the Patreon. I'll check it out and I'll write you a reply. Shout out to Self-Made Forever. I'm gonna give y'all some real life game. I'm not gonna give y'all this fake game. Lilith and Aries says, just join the Bag Chasers. Can't wait to hear your take on some of these businesses I have. Shout out to y'all. I did have an all-white Charger with the Hemi in it. Kojak, you are absolutely right. Let's see. Power Washing Pro says, we are super consumers. You are absolutely right. I appreciate that super chat. Shout out to you. Aaron says, better get a few roommates. Fact. I think that you should do that too. Kev Reviews Plus says, Anton, is it easier to claim travel expenses on taxes as a real estate owner or as a YouTuber? Y'all trying to get me caught up with the IRS out here in these streets? Listen, first of all, whatever it is that you're doing from a business perspective, as a content creator, let me put it like this. As a content creator, I have to travel to different places in order to capture content. I vlog lifestyle. I vlog travel vlogs. I give details. I have a video coming up of what it's like in order to travel Delta One. In order to be able to capture that video, I didn't get any invite from the travel airlines to be able to experience it, so I had to pay for it myself. Sometimes I fly over to places to go and evaluate an investment or do research and development. Sometimes I fly to places for a conference. Sometimes I fly to places in order to go and do an interview. So I have different expenses depending on which business that I'm tackling for that particular travel experience, right? So it depends on what it is that you're doing. It depends on what you're doing. But whatever it is that you're doing, you have to actually make sure that it's as it relates to the business. Now, if you decide that you want to go out and have some fun while you out there taking care of business, then that's a completely different conversation. But everything you need to do, it needs to be tied back to the business, and you need to be actually doing something business related as a result of it. I fly to different places in order to do interviews. I fly to different places. I got to get a rental car. I got to stay in a hotel. I got to take care of all of that, right? So read between the lines. Do what you do. Shout out to Candid. I see you in the chat, Candid. Let me read a few more super chats. Mike Love says, just quickly, different subject. Excellent response to Larry Elder appearance on the Breakfast Club. Great work. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Christian Hutchinson, my guy, says, growing up in Detroit, lived in a 1,600 square foot with 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom. My parents, 2 siblings, and 2 cousins. My kids have their own bed and bathroom and playroom. See, you out here doing it big, Chris. It's different for you. You out here doing it big. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, Chris. I appreciate you for tapping in. Mr. Hillel, my guy, says, it is I, and I am him. Mr. Hillel, I make $120,000 gross, and I'm broke and dusty in my mind. However, I have a spending problem. Shout out to Mr. Hillel. Thank you for camming up with me on this past Friday, my friend. Mark Pierce says, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Most Americans never consider the income taxes subtracted from their income before spending. Shout out to you, Mark. I appreciate you. Wealth Building Journey says, in short, ROI must be more than interest expense. Shout out to the Wealth Building Journey. I appreciate you. Roy Rainbow in the building says, what church you preach at? Sunday service. Right here on the Millionaire Morning Show. Church is here. It's not in the building. The building is just the place that we used to go to in order to be able to gather together. As long as we gather together, 2 or more in his name, there he is in the midst of thee. Shout out to you, Roy Rainbow. I appreciate you in the building. Seth 5551 says, AD, you be giving too much free game. I know. That's why they don't appreciate it. Also, Sweeting's playlist says, Anton, keep cooking. Oh, hold on. Let me get that up there. Anton, keep cooking and giving those gems, sir. Some will benefit. Some will go over their heads as usual. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you to everybody that's contributed into the platform. Xavier Bright. Let me get one more in there. Xavier Bright says, good afternoon, AD. What are your thoughts on the BRICS currency set to go into effect in November? Well, let's talk about it. I appreciate that super chat. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is Evergrande and how that ties into China, which ultimately ties into what Russia is doing, which ultimately ties into BRICS, right? A lot of people are not familiar with what BRICS is. LLC, I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. Thank you, my friend. Let's get into it, and then I'm going to get y'all up out of here. Evergrande files for bankruptcy. Now, if you're here in the United States of America, most people have never heard of Evergrande. Most people don't care about Evergrande at all. You know why they don't care about Evergrande? Because it's not right in front of their face, and it's not a popular term or a subject, and it's a Chinese company that is then listed here in the United States. And so they've recently filed for bankruptcy. Everybody expected it. But more importantly, it underscores the environment and the current situation in which China is going through. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get into it, y'all.
China's Evergrande, because the slow motion collapse of the world's most indebted property developer has just entered a new stage. The embattled company has filed for bankruptcy protection in the US, while its restructuring plans are being carried out elsewhere. Meanwhile, signs of trouble are spreading across China's broader property market, with large housing units remaining unfinished and buyers who pay deposits skipping payments as a result. Another major developer, Country Garden, has warned that it may not be able to make interest payments on its bonds as it struggles to find the cash to finish projects around the country. Well, joining me now is our Asia business reporter, Katie Silver. Katie, bring us up to date with the latest on what's happening with Evergrande.
Hi, Tig. So as you mentioned, they've filed
Hey, Hermes, I love you too, baby girl.
for bankruptcy protection in the US. They've done this under Chapter 15, which governs foreign companies in the US that are undergoing restructurings, basically for protecting them from any creditors that may want to sue them. So you've probably heard of Chapter 11. That typically governs American companies, but as I say, this Chapter 15 for foreign companies. Now, according to court filings, they say these negotiations are ongoing in Hong Kong, the Cayman Islands, as well as the British Virgin Islands. We've reached out to Evergrande, but so far not yet heard back for confirmation on all this. But
Now, if you look in this picture right here, and let me give you guys a little bit of insight, because a lot of people are not familiar with what Evergrande is or what's happening in China. And then we're going to tie this into bricks, right? Somebody said it inside of the chat. They said, let me go and highlight it really quickly. One second. There we go. BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. South Africa just tagging along because they don't have no choice. A lot of China and a lot of foreign investors have already owned the majority of their land anyway, and so they didn't really have a choice in tagging along. They had a choice, but they really didn't have a choice. This is just my opinion. But Evergrande, let me bring it back. Evergrande is a large development company that ultimately, right, overdeveloped, but they were incentivized by the federal government over in China to continue to do so. Well, why? That's what we're going to dive into right now, why it is that they've filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy, which is completely different from Chapter 11 bankruptcy, okay?
Reminder for those who think, actually, I've probably heard of Evergrande before. It is, of course, China's huge property giant. We were talking about it a lot a couple of years ago. They have about 1,300 different projects across 280 different cities in China.
280 different cities, 1,300 projects all going on at the same time. All going on at the same time. 280 cities. 280 cities that is developing 1,300 projects all at the same time. Now, if you look at this right here in this picture, what you don't realize is that the overwhelming majority of these new buildings and apartments and these new condos that they've built over in China are vacant. They are vacant. The overwhelming majority of all of these buildings over here in China are vacant. It's ghost cities. There's nobody in them. It's nobody in these cities. It's ghost cities. And so now they're trying to do a debt restructuring in order to prevent creditors from being able to sue them for the money that they owe them, right? And what it's doing is it's worsening China's property crisis because China's economy is really weak. It's a weak economy. It's a perceived economy of growth. It's a perception that they're stronger than what they really are. But the reality is that this is just the first domino to fall that highlights how weak China's economy really is. And see, the beautiful thing about capitalism is that it's self-sustaining, even though it may not necessarily be fair. Because the market is the thing that dictates what is going to be successful, right? You can't control the market. The market is what controls itself. The consumers is what controls the market, which is what dictates what the market is. The belief in a currency, the belief in a market is the value that we then give to it. The only reason why the dollar is sustainable, the only reason why the dollar has any value, even though it's not worth the paper that it's printed on, is because at first it was backed against actual precious metals, right? But now it's based off of our belief in it. It's based off of our belief in it, similar to this manufactured economy that was happening over in China, right? China is trying to shore up its struggling economy by lowering interest rates and overbuilding and then promising people that their money would be safe, continuing to invest in its property development companies, right? Which ultimately is a downward spiral, and eventually everything is going to collapse on each other. Because you should not be investing, similar to what Lucian said. William Lucian says you shouldn't be investing in Chinese companies. They're over-manufacturing in order to sustain an economy that can't sustain itself without the participation and the success of the people within this capitalistic structure. Let's continue.
And they invest in everything, not just property. They also have, for example, an electric vehicle maker as well as a football club. But as I mentioned, 2021 was when we saw the company default on its debts, sending shockwaves across the global financial system and, in fact, triggering a string of defaults across other builders who were either owed money from Evergrande or were expecting Evergrande to complete some contracts with them. Since 2021, we've seen about 40%, or the companies that make up about 40% of China's.
But the thing about Evergrande is not the only Chinese company that's defaulting on its debt. It's not the only Chinese company that is going to be defaulting on its debt. I'm going to be reading these super chats shortly. Hold on, let me highlight them to make sure I don't forget them. It's not the only Chinese company that's defaulting on its debt. It's a string of companies that's defaulting, running into trouble, unfinished homes, unpaid suppliers, no consumer confidence, which is the worst thing that you can do, because when consumers don't feel comfortable, why do you think that President Biden started getting up in front of the people and started pandering when they seen Silicon Valley banks start to crash and they seen other banks crash? It wasn't that banks don't crash on a regular basis. It's our belief in the banking system, which is why they say the banking system was too big to fail in 2008 when they had the housing crisis, right? You got to remember that China is the world's second largest economy. Property investment, sales, new construction, all of that stuff matters in order to keep things rolling, in order to keep the pyramid rolling, right? The property crisis is crazy over there.
Housing sector defaults. And currently, as we understand it, Evergrande has about $300 billion in debt. It's lost about $80 billion in the last 2 years. And in fact,
$300 billion in debt, $80 billion lost in the last 2 years. $300 billion in debt. $300 billion. It's a house of cards. It's literally a house of cards, and it's the first one to fall.
Has even been in a trading halt its shares since last year, Tig.
Yeah, indeed. And as we've been saying, the property market very much in the focus in China right now. We saw house prices earlier this week dip for the first time since the ending of pandemic restrictions. Worth stressing, though, Evergrande is a different company to the other one that's been in the headlines a lot in recent weeks and months. That's Country Garden. Can you bring us up to speed on what's happening with that company?
Sure. So they say, for example, that the losses of if Country Garden was to go under, that would be far, far greater than Evergrande. It's a much larger company. It, of course, warned in the last couple of weeks that it was going to make about an $8 billion loss in the first half of this year. And for any of us who remember the trials and tribulations of Evergrande, you could almost have a little bit of PTSD. They also told bondholders that they were not going to be able to service the bond repayments. This was, of course, the start of Evergrande's troubles. We have seen its shares up today about 3%, but they've lost almost half their value in their past month. And the issue here is those unfinished projects that you mentioned. Basically, people buying properties off the plan, seeing construction falter, and then buyers therefore stopping paying their mortgages, and that further causing financial stresses for these developer countries. And it must be said as well that these developers in the property sector makes up about a third of China's economy. So it's a really pivotal sector.
Think about that. It makes up these developers makes up a third of China's economy, which means that the government has an incentive in order to keep this thing rolling, in order to continue to accelerate growth. China predicted 5% growth throughout the year, which a lot of people are expecting them to miss. You got these property development companies literally creating, maybe I'll do a whole review and maybe I'll break it down for you all. But there's videos on YouTube where people actually are over in China and showing entire brand new cities with stoplights, brand new roads, growth. These development companies are creating these huge structures and a lot of infrastructure, and they building all of this stuff, and nobody lives there. Nobody lives there. And so the first thing that you got to ask yourself is, well, why are they doing this? Why are they doing it? Why? Well, A, to continue to instill consumer confidence, to basically incentivize people to continue to invest their money. And then B, in order to continue to maintain this perspective of perceived growth when it's not organic. Growth is not real if it's not organic. Growth is not real if it's not organic. And so people will ask me, well, Anton, what do you think about this BRICS, this new BRICS thing, right? I'm not as concerned about it as everybody else. I don't know. Maybe I should be. I'm not concerned about it as everybody else. I think that they are spending a lot of time focused on the wrong things instead of trying to actually fix their own countries and their own economies. Russia is absolutely in motherfucking shambles. The ruble is worth shit, is worth nothing. South Africa, nobody cares. The only real player in this thing, in my opinion, is India, because it's the only place that has real sustained growth. China's economy is a house of cards that's fallen. They have bigger problems even beyond the economy, including the one-child rule, in which the majority of the people or the citizens are now aging out, and you don't have enough young people in order to be able to support the economy. Then you have all of these property development companies in which a third of the economy is then dependent on it in order to be able to sustain itself. And you're telling me about this BRICS system or this BRICS partnership that is going to do what again? When? Where? I'm not as concerned about it as everybody else. I'm paying attention to a lot of people that's talking about it. I'm not going to say no names or none of that, but I'm paying attention to a lot of these fear mongering and all of this shit that's happening over there. I'm not concerned about it at all. Matthew says he thinks I'm wrong on this one. I'm also open to the possibility that I'm wrong. It's a discussion. I'm not saying definitively that I'm right. I'm saying that I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Real talk. I'm not even a little bit worried about it. Let me read some of these super chats and then I'm going to get y'all up out of here. LLC is in the building. Thank you, my friend. Says, they said, nah, BRICS is where the new economy is rising. Oh, okay. We'll see about it. We'll talk about it. We'll see about it. LLC says, thanks for pouring into us and all of the free game. I don't always agree with your views, but we see you breaking yourself. We see you breaking yourself trying to help people out of the kindness of your heart, and that's dope. Welcome back. Shout out to you. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for the kind words. It's funny because I was talking to somebody earlier this morning on my way into the office because I had forgot one of my computers and I had to drive all the way back. And they were saying, Anton, I think it's going to be a new lockdown. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But I'll get into that in the morning. Make sure y'all tap in. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Jupiter, we going to Jupiter, says, salute, Anton. Do you invest in any cannabis stocks? Hell no. Hell no, I ain't investing in no cannabis stock. That's one of the most volatile industries that you can invest in right now. I've seen so many cannabis companies go belly up and absolutely go bust. I do not invest in cannabis stocks at all. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. William Lucian says, this is why I don't invest in Chinese companies. Me either at all. They fabricate too much. You can't trust them. I agree. Most of the numbers that's over in a lot of these Chinese companies are fabricated. What do you think about the social credit score? What do you mean about the social credit score? What do I think about it? What is the social credit score? Let me look it up. Social credit score. Most initiatives under the social credit system do not involve actual numeric scores. Instead, documentations of specific offense are recorded in one's credit profiles, the exception being trial programs launched by cities. I have no idea what that is. Let's see. New domestic war on terror kicked off by China's social credit system is a combination of the government and business surveillance that gives citizens a score that can restrict the ability of individuals to take actions such as purchasing plane tickets, acquiring property, or taking out loans because behaviors. Given the position of several American companies, similar system may be coming here sooner than you think. So basically your inability or ability to be able to do something is going to be based off of your behavior. I got to do some more research on that before I can give an opinion on it. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Slim Tebow, would you consider doing a step-by-step guide on creating an LLC inside of the Patreon? I'll tell you exactly how to do it right now. It's not hard to do. In order to create an LLC, you need to start a company, go online, whatever state that you in. There's literally YouTube videos according to whatever state that you file in. Here is really, really cheap in Michigan. File on a website as far as filing an LLC. Then you go over to the IRS website and then you get an EIN or a tax ID number. Then you get those documents, and usually what you have to do is you got to make sure that nobody's taking the name inside of your state. You go over to the IRS website, you file for an EIN or a tax ID. That comes out instantly. Once you get to your documentation, once it's filed with the state, usually the bank that you go and open up your bank account with, is able to pull that up directly, but you still want to have your documentation with you just in case. But you go over to the bank, you open up a bank account, then you have your business in your LLC. The more important thing that you guys need to be concerned with is how it is that you actually market your business, how it is that you invest in your business. More importantly, you also need to be concerned with bookkeeping. Most people fail on their bookkeeping, and how you're able to reach your customers and funnel traffic. It's very easy to create an LLC. LLCs is very, very easy to create. It's not that difficult. We don't have to have a Patreon. We talk about much, much bigger things and more important things inside of the Patreon. But yeah, you just go on whatever it is that your state website is, and you file for whatever name it is. You dictate exactly what the type of company it is and what purpose it's going to serve. You can look up a YouTube video for your specific state in order to do that. Then you go to the web, irs.gov. You file for an EIN or a tax ID. That spits out immediately based off of whatever type of business it is. You take those documentation, you go over to the bank, you open up a bank account, and boom, you got your LLC. All right? Very, very simple. Shout out to you for the super chat. I appreciate you. YFNL Bill says, when China feels the squeeze, it will make sure all who owns them money feels it as well. The USA and them boys in Africa. Shout out to you. It's a lot of people that got businesses, but it's a lot of people that don't necessarily generate revenue. They created a business, but they don't know how to actually make money from it. The goal from a business is ultimately to generate money and also save yourself on taxes. I think that's the most important thing. Starting an LLC is very easy. Brock says, pass a love offering. Phenomenal show as always. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. Let's see who else we got here. I want to give a shout out to Ike Glenn. Ike Glenn says social credit scores sound like Black Mirror and controlling the mechanism. It does. On the outset, it absolutely does. I don't know how you give a social credit score. That's crazy. Kobe Jordan says, Anton, I was watching a short bit on how China constructing buildings with tofu and toothpaste. Oh, that's absolutely crazy. Listen, man, it's still over 2,100 people in here. I appreciate you guys. I rock with you. If you're not already subscribed to the Patreon, make sure you do so. That link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also, on top of that, make sure you tap into that Teach Pack. Teach Hanley, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. I got to stop slouching down in my seat. It's so comfortable. Got to start sitting up so you can actually see me fill out the screen. Also, on top of that, make sure that you tell your family and friends. Shout out to all of my people that's streaming on different platforms. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to drop that Flint City Councilman building video today. Actually, I'm going to drop it tomorrow morning on Patreon. So look out for that. And then I'm going to be dropping the next location of the meetup, which is probably going to be in DC. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all tune into the Q show tonight. We will be live streaming on the Anton Daniels channel. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for continuing to rock with me and everybody that tuned in with me. I need y'all to do me one more favor before you get up out of here. I want my $30 million. I want my $30 million. I want my $30 million. Make sure y'all tune into the show tonight. Make sure you share this with your family and friends. We don't want to be rich by ourselves. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to talk to you later. Peace.